holographic technology, and that's where we're going in. I mean, our folks on the radio today, you probably weren't able to see it, but it's actually a sneaker that's tied to your cell phone that actually changes colors, designs, everything based on its holographic design.
Wow.
It is fascinating if you could do that with a sneaker, right?
What else could you do it with?
We're going to find out today. I'll tell you what, we have a fantastic show. We're getting into this is going to be one of those technological geek shows where you guys are going to be geeking out on all what's going on right now. And not that we have a geek here today, but we do have a professional who has been researching not only holographic technology and performing that, but also we're going to be getting into free energy. We're going to be getting into signal transduction, which is a new science that's out and running, and it's all amazing. It's a biology. Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about signal transduction all the time now. From epigenetics to it's so much going on. We can't our history books can't keep up with what's going on right now. So it's tremendous. We're gonna have a great show. We have a special guest, Warren Hanchey. He's gonna be here today. He's an entrepreneur, and I'll get into do a formal introduction of him in a minute. But you guys are going to be listening to some information that is already transforming the world, and I'm really excited about talking about this free energy because this is something that's getting underneath the NWO radar here, or at least trying to get it out there because this stuff is life transformational. It really is. Can you imagine free energy?
Yeah, I'd love to have free energy. No more bills, no more light bills.
Yeah. Well, and we'll talk about Thomas Edison and his idea about free lights too as well.
I'm not a fan of him.
Yeah, well, people don't know the real story until you really do your research. But today we're going to be getting into all that type of stuff. It's a great show. You're not going to want to miss it. So, Facebook, start clicking on it now. Start pumping the hearts, Jesse. Get people coming on, and Jennifer, and as well, of course, we'll be up on YouTube, and we're live on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, all over the universe here, getting the word out. So, without further ado, before I get into our actual guest specifically, I just want to mention a few things. We have, and I think you got this all working out, the 7 steps to get your best use of the United Intention site. We have 7 simple steps. You click on to get 7 steps. You get an email for 7 days. Shows you how to utilize the site. And the site is incredible. It's called unitedintention.org. It's free. We're a 501c nonprofit. It's free for you out there to learn how to create, track, and manifest your intentions. We're living in this field, this quantum field, and wouldn't you like to have the instruction books on how you could get what you want? Well, that's what that United Intention is a great experimental place where you could have fun and experiment with manifesting what you want in your life and learning how to manipulate in your favor this field that we live in and in the favor of all involved. So get on that. You could also create groups. If you have a group out there, you want to reach our thousands of members and try to get your information that is uplifting and positive intended. You're welcome to get on there and start creating that and get in and get your information out there to the world, as well as Pinterest. We partner with Pinterest on there, and if you want to get on board as you're creating intention, we have the ability to create vision boards. So you go to Pinterest, you create your vision board on Pinterest, and you can attach it to one of your intentions you're creating. It's a phenomenal site. It's one of a kind, never done before. It's free. Get online. You'll love it. unitedintentions.org. And there's science behind it, science behind manifesting your intentions, dealing with your subconscious beliefs as well. So without further ado, let me mention a little bit about our guest today. Warren Hanchey is an entrepreneur with a broad and diverse background. Currently serves as a private researcher and a researcher director at Quantum Power Technology in Atlanta. You're homegrown here. I know you're. He lives in somewhere in Atlanta, but I think he's calling from Florida at this point. He's all around the place. His background includes 13 years in the area of biological signaling used in biological programming, and the same time frame in using longitudinal scalar waves. Big words, guys. We're going to get into it today. Scalar waves and producing capacity of performance greater than 1, meaning more power out than power in. That's free energy right there, baby. Right there. He has spoken at 2 World Scalar Medicine conferences in France and Germany and scheduled in October for another presentation in Paris. His genius is a passion for what he is inquisitive about that leads to tireless research to create success and understanding. Without further ado, welcome Warren Hanchey. How are you doing, Warren?
I'm doing great, Tim, and I'm actually out in Johns Creek, Georgia right now.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, man, if I knew that, I would have had you had to come to the studio so I can meet you in person. I would have made you fight the traffic. I can't believe Jennifer, I'm going to get you. George Jetson type of thing here. Well, we're definitely going to have you on again if you're willing, because what you're doing, honestly, there's no way we're going to be able to discuss free energy, signal transduction, holographic technology in 1 hour. But we're going to do our damnedest.
Okay.
But I'd like to first jump into the free energy, because that, to me, it's been around, the concept and probably the technology, ever since Tesla. I don't know, maybe prior to that, but Tesla talked about that. It seems like everybody just doesn't want to give you free energy because you can't make money at it. Einstein, came out with the light bulb that lasts forever. I think there's still it's still running, the light bulb right now today somewhere in some museum. And but he kept going over and over doing the experiments because he didn't want it to last forever. He wanted it to die out so he could make money on reusable light bulbs. So I mean, that's Thomas Edison. I guess you missed that in the history books, didn't you? So so it's about making money, and free energy is such energy in general is such a big issue. We're talking about cars, driving cars, housings, everything. So you have this element of going against free energy, but for the fact, before we even get to what's holding that back, what is free energy on layman terminology coming from a scientist perspective?
Well, the way we treat the free energy is we literally just collapse the energy out of the environment by adding order to the environment. And I think I actually went up to a friend's house up outside of Clayton. He's going to have a big eclipse party up there. I mean, I don't know if you've kept up with this, but 100,000 cars are going to be heading to North Georgia here in a couple of weeks for the eclipse. So he was showing me his new ranch up there, and we went out to his pond, and he said, "Look at all the fish I've got." He starts throwing feed out in the pond, and all of a sudden, you don't see any fish initially, and all of a sudden, there are tons of fish right under the pier. And as I was watching that, I thought a little bit about what we're doing. The reason the fish came in was obviously the fish food, but what he did passively was he created order in the fish pond by bringing all the fish to a central location. So what we're doing is we're taking the air, like in your studio there, and we're actually vibrating the air in a certain way, running it into a vortex, and consolidating the vibrated air, and in the middle of the vortex we're bringing out high frequency alternating current, and then we're having to adjust that down to get it into the grid. So most of this came from my experience in the biological signaling area, in that I could not program a substrate in biological signaling unless I had more energy coming back from the receiver than I sent from the transmitter. It simply would not work without creating that longitudinal scalar wave influence with what we were doing.
So the longitudinal scalar wave is basically the piece that actually allows you to, whatever you put in, you get more out?
Exactly. That's the static electricity that Tesla came up with, that all of a sudden I think a lot of the really smart guys back during his time realized that that was real, even Maxwell. And I think what happened was when Maxwell dies, they actually changed his equations so it would rule out longitudinal scalar waves. So I think he knew and everybody else knew that this was a factor, but like JP Morgan stopping Tesla as soon as he mentioned free energy, the powers that be in the world didn't want that out.
And I could only assume they still don't. They still don't. So okay, before we get into that aspect of it, which is a real live conspiracy, and we talk about this on the Wake Up Hour, but let's talk more so right now about the longitudinal scalar wave, because that seems to be the special piece. And without getting too much into your trade secrets or losing us through the science terminology, can you describe that function more so? Because apparently that's the word of the day.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. What we do is we send a waveform from a transmitter to a receiver, and then when the wave comes back from the receiver, it's 180 degrees out of phase from the transmitted wave. And that's what creates the longitudinal wave. So back in 2007, I brought this German guy, this professor in the university system over in Germany, to La Jolla, California, where we were living at that time. And he was an expert on longitudinal waves. Initially, when we started our biological signaling, we were using a radionics wave. And when I found out about Professor Konstantin Meyl, and that's M-E-Y-L, if your listeners want to Google it, reams of data out there on Konstantin. So I brought him in, I captured him for a week, I sucked his brain dry with all the stuff he knew about the longitudinal waves. I bought his equipment off of him and literally then started designing, using his equipment and designing our own equipment that was much, much, much stronger than what he was doing. So he and I have remained buddies for the last nearly 10 years now. I go visit him over in Germany. He comes and stays with us when he's in the U.S. He is actually previewing a new book over in Paris in mid-October, which is probably a subject you may want to cover on your show. So he's written this book called The Scalar Wave War, published it in a number of languages, excepting English. And the reason is it's so sensitive in what he's describing and how various governments around the world are using the scalar waves that they don't tell you about this. They don't even want the average person in the population to know what's going on with this. I actually told him I thought he was crazy because I've kept up with all this and we've discussed these things for years now, and I couldn't believe he was actually pulling this together in a book, because he's certainly going to catch some heat from a lot of areas just by publishing something like this.
Right. It's fascinating, and the whole work, and it's fascinating how we had to keep it in non-English, because you're looking at these power brokers, which most people know by now. You got the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds gang, you got the folks up there who are manipulating the currencies, manipulating the our world right now. Almost on every level, and not for the good, because you consider knowledge as power, and if you want to condense and hold on to that power, then you're not going to want people to have knowledge. And it's apparent that the longitudinal scalar waves, it's been around for a long time. It's just been never allowed to become known in the public environment. You're talking since, almost 100 years now, right?
No, that's correct. Nearly 120 years it's been suppressed.
Okay. And to me, that's such a travesty, and and it's a shame that this doesn't get play. But all media, most media, national media, is owned by the same people that we're talking about. But with that being said, do you feel like it's timing now? Apparently he's writing a book on it. You're discussing it, and I know there's thousands of others who all knew about this for 120 years, but just didn't feel safe to share at this point. Why do you think now people are risking everything?
So I think the internet is the biggest reason that this can come out. People that have tried to do this in the past have been killed, Stanley Meyer being one of the people that I'm thinking about here, or they've just been bought off to shelve the technology. And I think now that we have such a global communication network, my day, almost every morning, I'm talking to Berlin and London and Sydney, Australia, and Bali, Indonesia. The reason we set up a research lab over in Bali was literally for leverage to be able to do what we wanted to do in the U.S.
And not get shut down, yeah.
Yeah. We've got 4 countries that have pledged all their resources if we'll just come set up in these countries to produce our products. From the prime minister to the head of the military, right on down. So the rest of the world wants this. It's just the power centers, the utilities, and what a mess we've got with all that. You and I are sitting here in Georgia with a $25 billion disaster with the nuclear facilities. Mississippi Power has crashed and burned for $7 billion over there. So we need new technology that's safe to use, and we're going to do everything we can to give it to the world.
Well, fantastic, and God bless you and Godspeed on this, because it is so needed at this point. As you're saying, there's a deterioration going on in our energy industry, and I don't just see it as a coincidence. I see the policies in place that are shutting it down. So I think there's more nefarious reasons why our energy industry is being depleted and being disintegrating. However, with that said, this answer to this situation, this free energy, um, what is the how? Because it's fascinating. It really is, because it's been around. Everybody knows about it, and just so the folks know that, well, I don't believe. Why would a government why would anybody want to shut this down? I mean, you have to understand, industry has the power of industry and the power of the dollar too. This, for example, the battery company, they came out with a battery that lasts forever. And back in the '70s, Alkaline bought the patent and then shut it down because they didn't want you have to buy a battery one time, then you have to buy a battery again. They want you to keep buying batteries, which we do, disposable batteries all the time. Now, you could look at the ethical aspect of it, or you could look at the capitalistic aspect of it, and I guess from your perspective, you could determine, which one you think's great. But when you have lives, literally human being lives, animal lives, different species that are dying, suffering all over the world because lack of access to energy, and this hoarding of energy and power in certain people's hands, you have to say, okay, are we going to go with this aspect and allow this to continue to happen and allow the suffering, or we're going to come up with alternative or the plans that've been in place that's been suppressed for 120 years and allow it finally to shine? I mean, there's going to have to come some type of ethical and humanistic understanding and connection to humanity to say, you know what? No more. We don't have to do this anymore. And people such as Warren and a handful of folks he mentioned out there are giving us this opportunity to do it. So how's this going to roll out? I mean, there's certain safety in numbers, and there's safety in the internet. There's safety in now. You can make the CIA have to work double time, and be able to really set up these, these falls, right? But what's the next step at this point outside of getting the information out? I mean, so we're able to, in other countries, start developing this technology. So the question is, what are these power brokers going to do? What's Rothschilds, what's Rockefellers, what are they going to do when they see that this now being a direct threat to their empire of control over energy? Because eventually, when too many people know about something, you can't black bag the people anymore. You have to deal with the reality of it being a bottom-up approach, and you have to kind of either go with the flow or co-op it, right? What's the next step for the free energy to get out there, to get to that point where they have to make those type of decisions at that point?
All right, there's some really cool things going on in that regard. Over the last nearly 2 months now, I've been meeting and conferencing with some real power brokers in the U.S. and wealthy people beyond belief, and they're all of a sudden open to the idea. And one interesting thing that's happened is when President Trump dropped out of the Paris Accord, a lot of the mayors around the U.S. were really upset about that. My view is he did the exact right thing, because they were just going to spend our money like crazy over there, and a lot of it was going to not amount to anything. So I think all that money needs to be used to develop the technology, and the best place to do that is right here. But there are really 350 mayors that have come together now, kind of led by the mayor of Los Angeles, that all want to do something to lower our carbon footprint. The global warming stuff they're talking about is dictated by the universe. It's not dictated by a car driving down a street. It's almost insane, some of the things that come out from some of these scientists. And so I don't believe that for a minute. But this undercurrent of people that really want to change the environment is really going to help us get this rolled out. I mean, they're dying for me to get to Los Angeles right now and meet with this group that wants to fund technologies like this. So I think a lot of people are embracing it. It's just going to be such an overwhelming groundswell that the power brokers are not going to be able to do one thing about it. It's just going to be there. And a lot of people like me out here. So I'm not the only cat in this race. There are a lot of people that are doing the same kind of research. I just came back from a conference in Idaho with 100 people in there that are all doing research in these areas, and not a one of them believed any of the current physics principles that are out there. They think it's all garbage.
Well, honestly, I have a hard time even having a conversation with these global warmist mentalities unless they're able to acknowledge the geoengineering going on, for the last 50, 60 years. Because if they don't acknowledge that, then whatever they're saying is information that's blocked off, and it's in a void. So so I can't even have a conversation with people on that, and honestly I can't. But at the same time, it's ironic, isn't it? These are the same folks who are going to make this actually become a reality, allow it to become a reality, because they're the ones who have been manipulated by the powers that be to believe certain things, and they're the ones who are going to be bringing free energy. So it's like, you know, the what do they say, the comes back to roost. The chickens come back to roost, right?
Yes.
And that's exactly what we're in the middle of, isn't that, Warren?
It is.
You
And
gotta, you gotta love karma, man. You gotta love karma, baby.
that's it. And one of the blessings I've had is that the really smart people, a lot smarter than me, have embraced my intention, as your show says. I want to get this stuff out there, and literally this technology has been available for years, but the guys doing this in their garages, and you know, they're not highly educated people, they don't know how to communicate well, they really could come up with the greatest stuff in the world and never get it out into the public because they don't know how to go in and speak in boardrooms and communicate what they're doing in the right ways. I saw a lot of that at this conference. Some of the guys that had good stuff couldn't get up there and present it to the group in a credible way. They just were babbling about things. I've been blessed by going out and seeking the smartest people that are in this industry and making friends with them, and then they want to be involved with my dreams. So it's really been a great thing. These conferences over in Europe, I mean, I've got more attention in Europe right now than I have in the United States because they embrace what I'm trying to do.
You know, how can anybody, there's a flow now, and I truly believe that we're kind of going into this awakening. I believe the light's getting lighter, the dark's getting darker, and there's going to be this rift, which is fine from my perspective, because as the light gets lighter, more light's seeping in, and there's the gray areas are more coming alive as well. So gray is getting grayer, right? So I think it's a great opportunity now to bring free energy in, because like I said, the internet, unless you know, and the more you control something, the more you try to put your thumb on something, the more holes in the dam break open, and that type of old Piscean belief system that you have power over others is a dying breed of understanding, and a lot of these power brokers that we're discussing do not get that. If they got that, they would be embracing you at this point and say, you know what, how can we make money on free energy?
Right.
You know, if that's even going to be the goal at this point in our new world that we're creating. So I love it. I love focusing on positive futures. I love focusing on what is the solution rather than just saying, hey, we got to fight over here. Because I think when you go against that rock, you know, you have to find a way to go around it, over it, under it, but you can't go through it, you know, and there's no sense of pounding your head on a rock, right? You know, we just come up with other solutions, and what you're doing with the free energy piece here is life transformational, and I can't thank you enough for risking everything. I mean, risking everything, Warren, that you're throwing out there right now, and I know you and thousands of others who are doing this, and more people are hearing about it, that less pressure and target is on your back, literally. And I think that's very important. But can you share a little bit about how your journey's been in reference to your process of knowing this and then getting the information out? I mean, I guess it was very, trepidatious, you know. But go ahead, share your thoughts, share your journey.
Okay. So my background is accounting and business administration. I've been in construction, mining, all sorts of different things, as you saw on my little bio there. And I got interested in intention and signaling back in the early 2000s. And we started our company, 8.com, which is the first company in the world that claimed, as far as I know, that we could program a hologram, put it on the human body, and create a biological reaction. So we started 8.com as a marketing arm. We started Zero Quantum as a research and development company for 8.com.
And that is signal transduction, what you just described.
That is signal transduction, absolutely. Non-invasive signal transduction, you know, no drugs, no chemicals, none of that goes in the body.
No side effects.
And
Absolutely no side effects. So
what's the purpose behind that? What can you do with that?
Well, you can do
anything.
you can do pretty much anything that you can imagine with it as far as the biology side goes. So we created products that could increase muscle endurance and improve recovery time for anybody doing physical activity.
Wow.
We went into the University of Alabama. We did what's called a double-blind crossover placebo-controlled study. And you can fool placebo-controlled studies, but you can't fool a crossover, because what that means is you take the active group and the placebo group, you run them through, then you switch everything. You make the active group, the placebo group, the and vice versa. Anyway, you run them through like that and compare the data. You can't fool the data. So we had tremendous increases in muscle endurance. We then rolled out performance bands. We were one of the first companies in the world to do performance bands. We had custom bands at Clemson, Auburn, Alabama, Florida State. All the bigger schools were carrying our stuff, and it would literally help their athletes not be affected in the fourth quarter like their opponents were. And obviously none of these schools wanted to talk about it. So I've got pictures all over my wall back here on the left. If you look into my lab here, I've got pictures of Julio and all of his buddies over in Alabama, you know, Heisman Trophy winners, all these guys using our stuff, covering it up with wrist wraps so it wouldn't show up on them.
Okay, now let's describe that one more time slowly for the folks who really are being introduced to signal transduction. So, you create this holographic technology.
Exactly.
And you're using signals. You're saying signals whether in the body, but signals whether through neuropeptides or actual thought properties.
Any molecule. So let's say I want to create a better performance for an athlete. I can take calcium, magnesium, potassium, B6, B12, any of those things, and literally convert them into a longitudinal scalar wave, blow them into a substrate. And the reason we use the scalar waves is they'll go through any volume of material. They'll go through lead. You can't capture a scalar wave. So if I want to program 10,000 wristbands at the time, I can program 10,000 wristbands because that signal will impregnate everything that I'm putting it into. So it becomes formulas that create different reactions, put you to sleep at night, reduce the pain level in your body. I mean, right now, we licensed all that technology out a couple of years ago to a group that's got lots of money. And right now, those holographic products are rolling into the world. I think I can't say who's doing this just because of my license agreement and the private label deal going on. But like 5 out of the last 6 golf tournaments have been won by golfers playing with our technology on. It's rolling into the NFL. It's rolling out to every major retailer. It's out on Amazon, all over the place now.
Jesus, Warren, you're really pissing everybody off. Pharmaceutical companies, insurance. I mean, come on, man. I mean, how many enemies can you get in one day, right? No, that's wonderful. Actually, epigenetics supports this. Dr. Bruce Lipton talked about transduction and how basically it's your environment that creates the reactions of the cell, and you're using this the free energy aspect of it to accelerate that, to change the environment so it thinks it's happening. This is happening, and then the cell creates brand new DNA to address the issue.
And also the DNA actually can act like an antenna in the body. So think about every cell that has DNA in there. It also has a DNA antenna. So if we send the correct signal to the cell, the DNA picks up on that signal and reacts to that signal. My mentor, Professor Constantine Mile, was the chairman of the Second World DNA Congress over in China with 1,800 of the top DNA researchers in the world in attendance. And he wrote this book called DNA and Cell Resonance. And he showed how that resonance in pure physics form actually happened, and I can't keep them. Every time somebody comes to my lab to see things, oh, I want that book. I actually have a guy from Stanford University, triple PhDs, the country of Hungary, sent him in to look at our stuff. And I started telling him about some of this signaling stuff. He'd never heard about it. And this guy knows so much in that area that he grabbed my book. I'll send it back next week. I hadn't seen the book in 18 months.
Yeah, good luck with that. I don't think you'll be getting it back anytime soon. But
Right.
see, this is phenomenal because basically through signal transduction, you're able to bypass our negative programming through our subconscious mind. Because we have what, 70,000 thoughts a day, majority of them are negative. You're able to use this technology to bypass that negative thought going into your cell, telling the cell do the opposite of what you're really wanting to do because it doesn't believe it, right? Or we have poor self-esteem, self-worth, all that. You're bypassing that, and you're substituting your negative subconscious with a positive subconscious through technology to have the end results what you truly want, to change your DNA or change your cellular activity to produce the results that you really want on a conscious level. Is that
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And there are ways to do the programming with plasma as well as the longitudinal waves. I don't radionics can work, but I don't like radionics because it's a dispersed wave. So you can't control what you're trying to do. If you crank up a radionics machine, the whole room gets filled and some things get affected, but you can't concentrate the signal to get the results that you really need.
wow?
Yes.
That is so revolutionary.
It is. It really is.
I mean, just the science alone, signal transduction is revolutionary, but this use here is so revolutionary because you know what? What the best part about it
But
is because when you create that technology, your cell starts believing it. You start changing your subconscious belief because of this new technological subconscious belief. So your real subconscious belief starts changing over time because you're creating the environment to change it.
yeah.
And I love to see studies done on that as well. But what's fascinating about this information as well is that it is no side effects. There's no drug side effects. There's no side effects other than only side effects will be positive side effects
Yeah.
in a sense, because
I
you're
feel better. I'm
transforming.
happier.
Most likely, I wonder what the studies are, but you're changing your subconscious belief from within.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bottom-up approach. This is crazy. This is just crazy what this technology out there and how it's being embraced. And I don't see it talked a lot in schools yet. And, and I don't know if it will. Usually schools and books are usually about 20, 30 years behind actually present science, unfortunately. In fact, I think Lipton was talking about epigenetics and the cell, the brain being located in the cell membrane, not the nucleus. I think they're still teaching kids the brain's in the nucleus today. So, I mean, it's sad, but it seems like it doesn't matter anymore because we have the internet for our true education when you vet out the BS out there. So it sounds like this free energy can be utilized in almost anything. I mean, in signal transduction, also from free energy we're bringing in, and it all comes back to the longitudinal scalar wave, right?
Yeah, well, yes, it does. Technically, it does. And, what we're looking at is applications, cars, boats, planes, everything that uses electricity can use what we're developing here. So it's going to be an across the board effect, not just running your house or running your studio there. We want to run everything with this.
Yeah,
and just imagine a car going down the street and it's not having to have these big battery banks in there. It runs off capacitors and it runs out of the air. And I can drive from Atlanta to Los Angeles and, not blink at it.
It's almost too hard to believe, but science been around forever. It's just never been allowed to come about, and now it's squeezing through the cracks. It has no choice. When truth will always come out, you could hold it down, suppress it, but it goes through the three phases. First, it's laughed at, then it's strongly opposed, and then finally accepted as truth. And this is the truth. So this type of energy, free energy, I'll just say free energy instead of saying longitudinal scalar wave all the time,
Right.
although that, it can be used for greatness and good and stuff that you're working on. But can it also be used for the dark side?
It can. And that's this book that I'm telling you about called The Scalar Wave War. And it's going to talk about the dark side of where this energy can be used. I mean, why do you think our warships can go into Iranian waters over there and just go dead in the water with no clue why they went dead in the water? Think about it a little bit. I know the answer, but I'm not going to say it on air.
I got you. Well, they've been, it's apparent that they've been using all this technology. It's just, it's hoarding information and knowledge for yourselves to have power over others. That paradigm of thinking, folks, we have to start intentionally shifting this. We have to see ourselves connected, interconnected through our source, through compassion, We're having a potential candidate for mayor coming on in an hour or so, talking about getting the right politicians in position. My take is these days is that we have to focus on the compassion in action. Does this person elude exude compassion every day in their lives, and not just to throw money at our problems because they look good, but I mean really are compassionate people, because these are the types of souls you want in these power broker positions, in not only in politics but in these critical pieces around the world. You want these compassionate, oriented, connected to source people making these decisions, so then we can transform into this new world of interconnectedness and doing what's best, and not have to fall into the hands of using this technology for the dark side. So it's called the Cellular Wars, huh? Tell us more about the book, more about what's going on with that.
Well, I really can't tell you about. I've got notes for 7 or 8 years on different things that I feel sure he's talking about in there.
Yeah.
But I have not read the book because it's not in English yet, so I'm anxious to get a hold of it. But let me tell you, another area to consider here is the ancillary parts of being able to convert the energy out of the air, huge agricultural applications for all this. I mean, there are groups of people out there called breatharians that literally survive without eating any food. They just breathe in the air and get their nutrients out of the air. Well, if we can capture that and send it into the crops, we can get away from Monsanto and all these people that are poisoning everybody out there. And we're actually working on a joint venture. Troy University was one of the schools that we did a double-blind study in with their football team. And so my family actually were founders of Troy, Alabama. So I go way back, went to school down at Troy, and have a long history down there. But we're working on a joint venture right now with Troy on another application that we need to talk about at some stage. But we're going to use parts of the energy in what we're doing with the application at Troy. And the cool thing that the chancellor was telling me about the other day is they've started an entrepreneurial center as part of the university, and they're literally taking the kids and then bringing in crazy people like me to talk to them to say, here's what the real world is out there when you leave Troy, and you use the tools that they give you. Then you got to figure out how to use them when you get away from school. So that's what they're going to do with this center, and I think it's brilliant.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is brilliant, and we got to get you all educated and out there and as seen as many possible places. And I'm going to do my part. I'll tell you that. We're going to take our first break. Boy, to tell you what, I couldn't stop to take a break because this is such fascinating information, unprecedented. Guys, click in now. This is the only place you're going to hear for right now today is transduction, signal transduction, and free energy. But when we get back from break, Warren, let's talk a little bit about holographic technology, if you don't mind.
Okay. All right, good.
All right, we'll be right back with Warren Hanchey, entrepreneur and guys changing the world. All right, we are back with Warren Hanchey, and we're talking about free energy. We're talking about signal transduction. We're talking about changing this world for the better and using this knowledge for light and for goodness, and not perhaps for the darkness and easy things. And I don't even want to go into how this stuff could be used for darkness. I mean, we already know how it can be, but there's no sense even putting our thoughts there, because if we learn to use this for the good, then it's out there, and then I think people will realize that it makes no sense to use it for the negative. And in our universe, as I believe, we have the opportunity to have free choice. We have free choice to learn through pain and free choice to learn through love. So why not choose love? Why not choose the way to learn through loving and helping and interacting and feeling that unity with each other, that united intention. So that's where we are, and I know that's where our guest Warren Hanchey is. He's in that he's has that mentality of united intentions, and he is sharing this information with the world now. Him and thousands of others here and abroad are bringing this technology in. And I hate to tell you, as a United States citizen, we're behind, not because we're behind technology. We've had it for probably a long time and using it in these covert operations. But it's time that we get these power brokers out of these positions, or change their ways, or change their mentality, or whatever we got to do, and get people in position to be able to allow this information to come out without any harm done. And that's my biggest focus as well. So let's signal transduction. I mean, we could come back and talk a whole 2 hours on that alone, right?
No question.
But let's talk a little about. We showed in the beginning of the clip here is this new technology, and we just pulled a sneaker where from a sneaker from your cell phone, they're able to change the colors on your sneaker and the holographic design on your sneakers by just changing what it on your cell phone. So you could walk around and there's this movement of your sneakers. Sneakers are in the Western society for whatever reason is symbolic of something. I don't know what it is.
They're awesome. They're cool.
Whatever. I mean, it's not cool when you're worried about your $100 sneakers and not giving baby formula to your kid. That's not cool. But it's cool in the sense that it's sellable and people want to do that. But it's neat. It's holographic design changing that. So. Where are we? And I know you do a lot of holographic technology. What got you into that? I mean, was it signal transduction first or holographic first?
No, it was actually, it was radionics first, but with holograms. So I had a good picture in my mind of what we needed to do holographically. And then at that time, I was living in Southern California, in La Jolla, and lots and lots and lots of smart people down in Southern California. So almost accidentally, I met a couple that actually designed the first hologram for the MasterCard, for the credit cards. And they lived up in just outside of Carlsbad, California. So I went up and I spent the day with them, and they took me through their lab. They showed me how they were making various holographic structures in there. And then, with my mentality is I got to find the best people doing this in the world. So that led me to Beijing, China. I get over there, and the company I was buying holograms from at that time was the biggest holographic equipment manufacturer in the world. So everything that was coming out of India or South America or the US was coming out of their plant. And so they took me through the whole process of how this stuff worked. And then we ended up moving down to the Shenzhen area of China. And that's where we manufactured a lot of our wristbands and more of the holograms. And we just kind of developed this over like the last nearly 10 years now of increasing the holographic structure based on the information we were trying to put in there. And, with the universe being holographic, you're literally putting something in that the universe is already dictating. This is the way I want signals to be. And the process is so simple. Now think about this. You have a wristband, a watch or something on your right hand over there. What we figured out was how to take the body temperature, 98.7, give or take, and the room temperature. And in physics, anytime you have two temperatures that are different and you put a conductive material between those two temperatures, you can create an energy field. So then we studied acupuncture, and we found all the points on the body that could be easily sent information. And that's the way that wristband works, is the hologram under the wristband takes those two temperature differences, brings them together into an energy field, and pops it right into your body totally non-invasively. And I can send any information in there I want to send.
Wow. Now you know how they could you think on the negative side how they could control humanity there through signal transduction.
I was going to ask, how do I place my order? Where can I get these?
Well, let me ask you a question, Warren. It sounds like other countries are allowing this for public understanding and use. Is the United States one of them, or are we not one of those countries?
Well, I think holographically the United States certainly is.
Okay.
There's no fear of developing the holographic side of things. One of the things that we're looking at in our power side is the use of superconductors like graphene. And my son has gotten into the hemp business. He's actually become one of the top extractors of oils out of the hemp plant that's used in the medical community. It's called CBD oils. He's planted fields of hemp, and we're looking at how we can take what we're finding out about the energy and literally moving it over into the agricultural area to speed up the growth rate of the hemp plants and make it clean growth without having to use chemicals. He's just insane about two things. He's insane about the intention of what he's doing, and he's insane about not having any harmful chemicals involved. And he's putting these videos. I mean, he would be worth an entire show on here with you.
Well, we're definitely getting him on. I'll tell you that right now.
He's invited.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, he put this video out there yesterday. He was setting up a feeding network for his fields in Colorado, and he's out there talking to his babies and telling them how much he loves them. And,
Hey, that's the power of intentions right there,
And
right?
that
Yeah.
actually works.
I mean,
Yeah.
can you imagine a pharmaceutical firm talking to their pills before they sell it to you? They're selling it to you because they want $1. They don't care what it does in your body.
I know. It's so true. And in fact, this type of what he's doing, why couldn't we? I mean, it could destroy hopefully the whole GMO movement, and too, because you don't have to genetically modify any more foods if you're able to use this signal transduction or this free energy aspect into enhancing your experience of your plants, not just hemp plants. I mean, wheat,
Like tomatoes.
beets.
Yeah.
All the stuff they're putting these genetically modified foods in. It could
Corn,
literally
that would be-
take it out of business.
No, everything. But people are getting paid off
Yeah.
to put chemicals in everything.
Yeah. And that's where we come back to. That's where we come back to. Technology is wonderful, and it could be totally life enhancing, and it could be life changing. But if we don't get a handle on our individual intentions and our beliefs and our connection to our source, a higher power source, a more loving source, if we don't really incorporate this into our belief system, then we are going to go down a road where people will sell out for that moment of environment outside of ourselves, identification of gratification, instant gratification, because we have to realize that it's an illusion. This outside world really doesn't mean anything. It's the inside world that means everything. And the inside world is what's creating the outside world. So if we fully incorporate that into our belief system, this technology that you're sharing, we could shift things almost immediately. And I think we have to have the sense of responsibility in our own belief system before we should have hands-on with this technology. Because if we don't, I think and we apparently haven't, because a lot of it has been used for the dark side.
No question about it. And the cool thing about the entire hemp industry, which right now is classified as basically a class 1 drug, which is absolutely idiotic to start with. There's no hallucinogenic properties to hemp at all. Every state could have $1 billion industry by next year by simply separating hemp out of the false category that it was put in years ago to stop it from being out there. And the hemp actually can clean up the ground from the nasty stuff that's already in there. I mean, we've already got, through Troy's company, we've already gone in and got the approval for the state of Alabama to be one of the first hemp farms in Alabama once the U.S. government gets this separation done, and the bill has already gone in to do that as of about 2 weeks ago. So if they can get that done, we can be growing hemp all over the southeastern United States by next year.
Wow.
Put a little applause in there.
Well, it's fascinating because it's a lot of it's disinformation, like you said. A lot of it has been around, and they knew about the curable aspects of hemp and when it's separated from the hallucinogenic, but they played that up just to scare and create the stigma for people, families, mothers, fathers. Oh, I don't want my son to get hooked up on smoking marijuana all the time and being in some la-la land, and they can't focus on blah, blah, blah.
So it's like a gateway. Like, oh, you do this, then you're a criminal.
Well, and honestly, if somebody's hallucinating all the time, how productive of a citizen can they be in society at that point? And I get it if you want to experiment and you want to focus on certain aspects of that, but we're talking about hemp that doesn't have that type of hallucinogenic. We're talking about a part of this aspect that actually heals things, and not only heals things, but can heal, like you just said, land that we grow other things on. So
right.
I mean, that's just unheard of, and I just so many other positive things that come out of that. As long as it doesn't get co-opted, as long as it stays on the populist level, that I think it could be a very positive aspect of what's going on. The question is, how are these big pharma and these big corporations who do not want to give that control over, how are they going to allow that and perhaps co-op it? Or because they're co-oping right now, we're watching the organic industry, they're co-opting many. Monsanto and all these other companies are buying these organic companies, and they're lying to us, saying certain things are organic and they're not. And so the question is, how do you prevent that from them co-opting the hemp industry as well? I mean, I don't know. I don't have that answer.
Well, they're never going to co-opt my son. I know that. And he's getting to have quite a reputation. He's got operations going out in Oregon and California and Colorado, and he's expanding all over the place out there. And we're getting ready to expand him big time in the Southeast.
Excellent.
But think about this. The vast majority of all the wheat in the United States is killed with Roundup before it's harvested. Then it's harvested. Now, I live in a world of cellular biology.
Yeah.
So how stupid do we have to believe that cell has not absorbed that poison, then it gets cut, then it gets made into all sorts of different kind of breads. We all eat it every day. We're all getting poisoned every day because of this, and yet the U.S. government, the FDA, blesses it as being a proper way to harvest wheat. It's absolutely insane.
The glyphosate, and they already know glyphosate's transfer from pregnant women, from the child, and where do they come from if it's not exactly what you just said? And you have to come to the conclusion. I hate to tell you guys, Americans are just worried about football and what they're going to be eating in their plate the next minute. But we're going to have to wake up and realize the FDA is compromised, the CDC is compromised, most government agencies are compromised, the media is compromised, and we have been under this type of disinformation for a long time. And I think people are waking up and realizing that case, and that what's happening is now this distrust of these organizations and governments are trickling down to our traditional doctors, who are just basically, as Bruce Lipton says, become drug dealers. They hear a commercial on the pharmaceutical commercial that take this will help you with your sleeping. The person calls the doctor the next day, give me that drug. They write a prescription out. They're your third party. There's your drug dealer right there. Nobody questions anything because Big Pharma's saying that this is how you got to make your money. And it's now we're creating an industry of distrust amongst doctors who were looked up as gods literally in the past,
Right.
And it's a shame, but I tell you what, if that's what has to happen to break the back of this, then so be it. But I think good people such as yourself and great doctors out there, you have great functional integrative doctors who are waking up and who are realizing this, traditional doctors changing over to integrative functional medicine will make the difference, and who will embrace things like your son's doing with the hemp and what you're doing with the signal transduction. And I'll tell you what, I feel so optimistic now. I really do, and I have for a long time. And one reason why I created United Intentions years ago was because I had a choice. I could go live in a bunker and let everything fall apart, or I get my butt off my chair and get out there and get engaged in the world and start making the world that we want to live in, and people such as yourself are doing just that. And I just find it just fascinating everything you're doing. We're going to take one more break here. And when we get back, Warren, let's talk a little bit about the hologram and sleeping, how it could help that too. And I want to mention one thing. What about the 3D printing? Just kind of came and gone. I thought that was going to revolution the world. Yeah, I know. Well, we'll see. We'll talk about that with Warren Hanchey, and entrepreneur and researcher for Direct and Quantum Power Technology in Atlanta. We'll be right back. All right, we are back with Warren Hanchey, and we are talking about, oh my God, everything. Yeah. Energy, free energy, signal transduction, holograms.
We're talking about revolution.
Revolution, yeah. Listen, Warren, I don't know how. Listen. You're coming back in a short period of time if you're willing, but I want you to come in studio, okay?
Love to.
All right, great.
You should bring some of your toys too.
And actually, and you're welcome to bring Troy too. Maybe we'll do a 2-hour special or something.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Well, okay, right. Yeah. Make sure that I don't know. We should have 2 people at the same place. Maybe we need to be thinking that through.
Let's do it. We do whatever we want.
That's my conspiracy mind coming into play there. Just kidding. All right, so let's talk about because sleep patterns I see as a big issue right now with people, and it's not just this phenomenon. I believe it's related to the EMFs. I believe it's related to all these electromagnetic frequencies, these smart meters they're putting on our houses now that are doing this. Our phones now in Georgia is one of the test states that we're bumping up to G5 now, and we're putting out more radiation than ever before, and it's affecting our whole individual electromagnetic natural stream, like through acupuncture and all that. That's my take. Is any truth to that?
It's absolutely true. Think about this. So one thing with sleep, we did a lot of research on sleep. I've got sleep doctors that we've dealt with, and in the medical side, like for instance, earlier this week, I was up in Clayton, Georgia with an orthopedic surgeon up there that literally, I want to say maybe 80% of his business is alternative medicine now. So there are a lot of really good people that are just spreading out from conventional medicine into all sorts of alternative medicine because they see, that just drugging people to oblivion is not solving anything. So they want to do that. So in the sleep, you got to get your room totally black. So you don't want any light in your room. You want to turn off the connection. If you've got a power strip or something that's running your electronics on your TV, turn all that stuff off. If you can get the room pitch black, dark, you've got a plus going on. And you want no sound. But think about this. So you've got receptacles all the way around the room in your bedroom. The magnetic field that comes off the electric field that's running parallel around your room is coming off perpendicular at the speed of light to the end of the universe. Okay? So it isn't a matter of if you're 3 feet from a wall plug that you're okay. That wall plug is sending magnetic fields through your body and your neighbor's body and the next neighbor's body and the next neighbor's body. So this stuff is massive coming off. There's also a gravitational field that's coming off as a byproduct, again, at the speed of light to the end of the universe. So this stuff doesn't stop, and we're right in the middle of all that. So the ideal thing in your bedroom would be if you could get the electrician to give you a master switch on your bedroom, and you flick that switch, and all of a sudden there was no power in your bedroom. It was pitch black dark. You'd sleep like a baby.
Well, that's and that's amazing. And I have a doctor who said he just goes downstairs to his breaker and clicks his breaker every night off.
Yeah. I mean, that's a smart thing to do because the smart meters are monitoring every movement you make in that house. They know every room that you're in. As soon as you flick on a light, the power company knows what you're doing when you're going to the toilet every night, the whole 9 yards.
And even outside of that, the real damage is being done is every time there's a signal going on, there's an impulse, and that impulse puts out that radiation.
Right.
And there's impulse checking all the time on the smart meter. Now, is there any way to get around the smart meter outside of just getting a good night's sleep by clicking a breaker off?
Technically, if the smart meter's on your house, you can't do anything about it. Funny story on the power side of things with this is, so I'm in here running power into the grid as we're experimenting on different components in our system. And all of a sudden I get a knock at my lab door one day, and there's a guy from the power company. He says, "What are you doing down here?" He says, "The lights are going off up and coming at our master station from your house. What are you doing? Because I just went around your house. I don't see any solar panels. Where's this power coming back to us from?" And I said, "Well, we've actually got a couple of solar panels on the roof, and we're actually magnifying that power." So I got away with this story about power magnification. The next day, the vice president calls me from the power company, and he says, "Look, you've got to get on net metering because we're not only charging you for the power you're using in your house, but we're also charging you for the power you're sending back to us because we have not flicked the switch." So they are in total control of everything going on in your house, house by house by house by house. So I filled out the paperwork, sent it back in, and that was 2 years ago. So I've been sending power I don't do it all the time because I'm not ready to create those kind of questions, but I use it for testing. So anytime I want to see my meter spinning in reverse, I just turn the system on, the meter goes backwards, the power goes back to the power company, and we're good to go, and then I'll turn it back off. I just don't run it extensively just yet. When we get ready to hit them, we're going to hit them like a top water plug.
That's some Alabama talk right there. You gotta love that, right? Well, that's wonderful. And I'll tell you one thing that, and for humanity's sake, so you understand, because everything can seem very overwhelming. The GMOs, the chemtrails, the EMFs, and all this. It almost seems, my God, why wake up in the morning, right? But you have to understand the human nature, and thank God to our understanding of epigenetics. We have the ability through our perception of our cells, individual cells, to perceive what we have in the environment and make changes and create brand new DNA never seen before to deal with this environmental toxins that are being hit with. There's ways we can enhance that process from more of a holistic perspective, or being conscientious of the EMFs and using techniques like Warren is talking about. But we have a natural, built-in adaptability piece of being a human being, and thank God for that aspect of it, huh?
That's true.
All right, so holographic sleeping, hologram sleeping, how does that work? How does it help people? And say I flip my switch off and I still want to use it, or say I'm not able to turn my switch off. I have to deal with these these EMFs going through me longitudinal every freaking minute I'm in bed. How can hologram sleeping technology assist us?
So you simply program the hologram with the materials, with the molecules that you need to put you to sleep, and then you put the hologram on this bone right below your ear, and it'll put you out. This was one of the products we had on 8.com that we were selling all over the world. And you can also use it for jet lag when you're going through time zones. If you put your sticker on before you leave, then you won't be as jet lagged when you get to your destination.
Wow. Where can we get that? And how much does it cost?
Well, you can't get it right now because they're concentrating on pain at our private label company, and most of what they've got is pain and performance now. They have not gotten into those things, although I gave them the formulas to do that, to do all sorts of different things, detox. We had a lot of different products that we were using at 8.
It sounds like powers that be don't want that to come out right now. All right, so next question. What happened to the 3D printers? I thought for sure 3D printers were going to destroy our retail business and create a whole new way of I'm home. I want a cup. I don't have to go buy a cup. I just make a cup. It seems like is it being condensed in certain people's power hands to make money out of it at this point? Or
No. That industry is alive and well. Believe me, I bought one for our Bally operation over there. We can structure any kind of coils that we want by 3D printing them first. And what you have to do is you do your modeling with all the 3D printing, and then you can take them to China and do the injection molding for next to nothing. So we create the models. They're even using 3D printers now to build hempcrete houses. So literally the whole house section is being formed by the 3D printer. They can build a house in a day with a 3D printer and then deliver it and set it up on the job site. So 3D printing is getting better and better and better.
Wow. You know what? We're going to have to come up with a specific show for the Wake Up Hour, like, Technology Today or something like that. And you're going to be, if you don't mind, you could be our monthly host on that, or come on board and share that. So there's so many now things that are running through my head right now. I probably need one of those hologram things just to slow my head down right now, So no, this is one information, and that's great to hear that, because I was assuming that it would be in the stores near you. I go buy a 3D printer, but I guess hasn't hit that level yet of replacing a lot of these retail things, or maybe we're still developing, I assume, or And
I think so, and there's a little learning curve that goes with it, and a lot of people just don't want to spend the time to dive in there and figure out how to do it. So, it's there, though. It's alive and well.
Well, okay. Next time we have you on, I want to talk about all these metals that are being put out into the environment, how that's affecting us, and technology being used against us on that level too. So much to go down. Warren, I can't thank you enough for coming on. We're running out of time here. Of course, I'd love to keep you on forever. We're definitely going to have you back, and we're going to have your son come on too, without a doubt, with you as well. We'll figure that out. Off the air, we'll set something up. Wonderful information. You're doing wonderful work. Again, Warren Hanchy, he works over at Director at Quantum Power Technology in Atlanta. His work right now is not only on the border on is genius, but also is a they call him paradigm shifter. You're a paradigm shifter right now, and you're changing things for the better. And I'll tell you what, we need to talk about cloning. We need to clone him. We need to clone him and anybody out there. So again, thank you again, Warren, for coming on. I really appreciate everything you talked about, and I know our audience does as well. All right.
I enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
All right, we'll talk soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. All right, guys, that was it. What a great show, huh? Blew your mind, right?